order the Borough Crafton agenda meeting of November 10th, 2014. Flag salute, Ms. Whitesell.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amendola?
Yes.
He's here.
Ms. Amendola is absent. Mr. Crown?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien is absent. Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Ms. Whitesell?
Here.
Mr. Hayes?
Here.
Mayor Bloom?
Here.
And Manager Tran?
Here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the bill list dated November 10th, 2014.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on this motion? All right, hearing no discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain?
Oh, aye.
Did you?
I wasn't here, so I don't know. I would probably abstain.
All right, you're abstaining?
You know,
April, you're aye? Okay, motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes dated October 27th, 2014. Thank you, Fred.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the minutes? No discussions? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
abstain because I wasn't
All right, motion carries. Citizens' comments regarding agenda items only. I don't see any citizens' comments. Nobody signed up? Nope. Beautiful. We'll skip right over that. Okay, going into administration, first discussion item we have tonight is the garbage collection bid review. We're attempting to take action on November 24th, which is our next meeting. So I'll turn it over to Manager Trant to talk about the bids that we received and what our options are.
So in your packets, you have an Excel file spreadsheet that summarizes the bid. We received one bid. The packet was sent to at least 5 or 6 haulers. We received one qualified bid from Waste Management, and that's our current hauler. The summary of the charges, proposed charges and fees are on that spreadsheet. The key issues are the alleys versus no alleys with respect to collection, and the addition of the collection of e-waste. So the base bid included e-waste, however, the information from Waste Management did allow for a deduct of the e-waste collection. It amounts to essentially, I think it's a 6% discount if the e-waste is not selected. So right now, the borough's fee is $145. And the proposals are outlined there in terms of with alleys, without alleys, and then without alleys and without e-waste. It breaks down to with alley pickup, approximately $205 face value, plus the $4 collection fee is $209. Without alley pickup would be $190 face value, with the $4 collection fee would be $194. The without e-waste and without alley pickup would be $185 plus the $4 fee for $189.
And for when we talk about without alley pickup, Mr. Trant, we had talked before that there are certain alleys we must pick up on, right? So is that taken into account the certain alleys that Rob designated as mandatory?
Yeah, I forget what they are. I think it's alley A and Y, maybe. I don't know what they are. But there's 2 or 3 alleys that had to be picked up, and the hauler knew that. They were identified in the request for bid.
What do we currently do now
Alley pickup on
with
almost all the alleys.
e-waste?
No.
Oh, no e-waste. No e-waste, no.
Yeah, so the comparable one would be the first one, the annual of $195. And $195, if I subtract that from $145 and I divide it by $145, that's a 34% increase. So it's a 34% increase to say exactly as we are. It's a 21% increase to just, or to drop alleys. That doesn't include e-waste.
Now, yeah, that's a little misleading, because last year when we were going out to rebid, Ms. Memphis said they wouldn't increase last year.
Right,
They maintained us as a prior year's rate.
right, and as long as we didn't open up the RFPs.
Oh,
It was an option year, and the
So-
borough exercised an option,
Last
so
year actually should have been higher than what we
Right.
paid.
that is a percentage increase over the 2-year prior cost. So essentially, last year was frozen.
Could the borough absorb some of that with the capital reserve?
No, we did go back and look and confirm that the fees are covering costs. And the spreadsheet that's on the second page of your file on Covey shows that what was collected and what was expended, and you've got a difference there. And the difference accounts for, it's not exact science in terms of what percent, who's gonna pay face value, who's gonna pay the discounted rate, who's not gonna pay, so that buffer there.
But the 34% increase, if you go with the first option for
Mhm.
$499, with our capital reserve, we couldn't absorb that with the reserve money.
Well, remember, it's an ongoing annual cost. I would recommend the borough's past practice is a good one, which is that the fee actually pays for the cost of the service. In fact, I was surprised that the borough did, to be honest with you, because a lot of boroughs have that hidden legacy cost in their general fund, that you're subsidizing a portion of the garbage collection, and a lot of communities do that, which can be challenging as it compounds and gets more and more over the year, and you've got that hidden cost in your general fund. This is a true dollar fee that you're paying for the service you get.
Understand?
It does seem steep, and, just on the news today, the proposed millage increase in the city of Pittsburgh is actually less than what we're proposing to increase the garbage fee for, so.
Can-
I guess I'm in agreement with the mayor. Is there something we can do here?
Well, you can always expend general fund revenue to cover a portion of that cost.
If you're, even if you, Joe, what did 34% make up the difference between this year and next year?
34% is the increase with alleys and e-waste. Without alleys and no e-waste, it was 21%, and with alleys but no e-waste, I think you said 6% discount. That takes it down to about 26%.
No, if my neighbor said to me, how much did I pay in 2014?
$145.
And if, with next year's contract with the e-waste, how much am I gonna pay?
205.
205 unless you get.
190. I'm actually comparing that to 195. So I'm comparing numbers if you pay the full amount on time. But you're right. The full amount
Actually,
quarterly
early, right?
would have been 150. What? 4?
Remember,
150 plus
Right.
$4.
right.
150.
You're better off using the face value number, right? Because if you assume everybody's gonna pay the discounted rate,
Right.
your rate actually ends up going up because it's a discount, right? So you wanna go with the 205 versus,
Oh, okay.
you know what I mean?
150.
So we're talking, now give me that first one, 145?
154.
Yeah, 154.
150?
Well, don't count the 4, because that's.
I'll just leave the 4 off. I'll just leave the
Okay.
4 off. So it's
It's 150
Okay,
versus
to 205.
205.
205.
Okay, so you're talking $55 increase.
$55 increase.
Okay, so that's a number that people can grasp. The percentage thing, 34%, what is 34? It's $55.
It's
That's like-
$55 a year.
It's $350 a month,
And
or $450 a month.
with respect to a monthly amount too, right now you do annual billing. I'm sure it would not be a big deal for Jordan to do at least quarterly collection.
They
but
do,
It might help.
they have that option.
You can opt into it, but I'm saying do it as a matter of course, always do quarterly billing. That might help increase your collection rate and make that $55 spread out over 4 payments more palatable.
Would they do the billing fee each quarter too?
But you're-
$4?
Well, let's take this in a couple of ways. I mean, with alley pickup and without alley pickup, the difference in cost between alley and no alleys is $15 a year.
Right.
I would say keep it on the alleys, right? To eliminate the disruption for $15.
And how much more is e-waste?
E-waste will take, off of that, right? E-waste will take,
It's the one number, it's 185.
185 or something.
Without e-waste and without alley pickup. it's
No,
one-
I'm saying, I was just suggesting we keep alley pickups, right? I was saying,
How many alleys are there we're picking up on?
It's about 12.
I mean,
Half the Grafton will be in here if we
over
do
the
away
whole
with alleys.
borough.
yeah, I mean, a lot, a lot. So, I'm just looking at the first two options, with alley and without alley, right? Just leave it at that. It's 190 versus 205. So for $15 a year, I would think most people, I guess most people that have alley pickup, right, would say I'd rather keep that $15
Of course
and
they would.
have, right? Okay, so you keep that in mind. And then the other thing, right, is without the e-waste, you see, the option you have here, John, without the e-waste is also without alley. So I'm just
Right.
kind of figuring out, I think you said it was a 6%
6%
discount
reduction of the 205.
of the 205. So 205 times 106 minus 205, it's like $193. So instead of,
But this versus this, 195
$12.
to 185, $5.
yeah, 205 to 193. It's basically a buck a month. So it's a buck a month to keep alley, I mean, a buck a month for e-waste, and to keep alley pickup is $15 a year. Because I think where we can get wrapped around here is that this is going up considerably, right? And it doesn't much matter really, e-waste or alley pickup. We just have to kind of weigh whether we really like the convenience of the e-waste. Will the word even get out to the residents that e-waste is now part of it, or will people end up paying for something that they're not even aware they're getting, right? Because you got to communicate that effectively.
It'll be less stuff thrown over the hill on Union Road.
Well, I think the e-waste gotta stay because of the nature of the environmental costs. And honestly, just keep it, it's 205, I don't see there any other solution to do, personally. I think it's just palatable that people have gotta understand, we've gotta do a good, marketing, campaign that explain to them, hey, this is why it's going up, here's the bids. 55 is a lot of money, but it's $4, $4.50 a month. You have to break it down into simpler terms.
Can anyone shed any light on, this was a five-year contract with a 1-year arm the last time? And so we haven't had any increases, I guess, for what amounts to 6 years.
No,
What
we
was
had
There were
graduated
increases,
increases.
but they were per the contract.
Oh,
But they were minimal.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
so-
significant.
They were like-
what has it, I mean, I don't really remember, like, what has the increase been year over year, generally speaking? Is it
Nothing like
over,
this,
A couple bucks,
yeah.
Like 2, 3, or 10, 12?
probably 10, 12.
10 max.
10 max. And we're gonna have the same same increases yearly over this too?
This is a 10-year proposal to try and help stabilize the cost. I'm looking up the last year.
Do you have any insight into why we didn't get any other bids? That seems odd.
Part of it was that Republic, Ingram went with Republic. Republic can't service the borough all in one shot. So that's some of the feedback that we got was they would have to, one of our requirements was they have to do it one day. Ingram went with Republic, and there's several garbage days in Ingram now throughout the week. So they said Republic just couldn't service it and do it in one day to meet that requirement.
That's the only other.
That's all the
provider?
feedback I got, yeah.
There's no other providers, Waste Management or Public?
They're the two local ones. We sent it to 6, I don't have the list in front of me, but yeah, they're the only ones that responded.
Yeah, because there's the BFI, there's Sequoia Waste.
Valley,
Yeah. Oh. Because we have Sequoia over the building right over here.
They're probably not big enough to do municipal contracts. They're dumpsters only, they're not.
Right.
All right,
In terms of the e-waste, Waste Management does have a communications program they have flyers and stuff that they send out to get it out to residents.
yeah, I mean, e-waste is important. I mean, I attended the Dan DC e-waste program in Crafton. It was very successful. I mean, it's more convenient to leave it at the alley or the curb. But we probably would get some feedback on that, like if it's gonna go up a lot, right? We at least have the opportunity to remove $12 of it, I would say pay it, but, you know, I have one voice, right? We actually have to speak for everyone. So we'll take that into, you gotta take that into consideration, when we actually vote. We're not voting tonight, this was just to kind of review the bid that we received, the options that we had from the bids. Are there any other questions for Mr. Tran or anyone
Well,
else?
I do want to point out too, in terms of the alleys, no alleys, just to connect the dots and make sure council's aware about the discussion that we've had during the budgeting process and with regard to a plan for the alleys and whether we do interim fixes or full upgrades. If you're gonna keep trash collection on the alleys, you're not, you know, your interim, short-term fixes are gonna be even shorter. So that it's a conscious decision to keep the alley collection for convenience purposes on the alleys, or keep the garbage collection on the alleys. And there will need to be some sort of program to rebuild the alleys to withstand the weight of trucks, otherwise they're not gonna improve. You know, a program, I don't wanna make these decisions or recommend that you make these decisions in a vacuum. So during the budgeting process, we're recommending the purchase of equipment to fill potholes on alleys. That's an interim fix that will last even a shorter amount of time if you continue to have garbage trucks driving up and down alleys. So I'm just want you to have the full information and be aware of the impacts of the budgetary decisions with respect to capital improvements planning and equipment purchases, and then also the garbage contract. I'm not, you know, advocating one way or the other, I just think it's important that you understand how those two things are related. My point is, you may not want to spend money filling potholes on alleys when they're going to last one season or less, without a plan to fix the alleys long term.
That's a tough decision.
Is there a way to offset a portion of this cost in the general fund? I mean, I know there's a way, but
Well, sure, so we can budget for it. We have a line item, we budget a certain amount that you'd like to allocate towards this contract, above and beyond what's collected.
But if you would budget the full amount, but you were billing out less, you were gonna bring in less revenue to offset it, so put in the full amount.
My thing is, are we gonna do that every year? How are you gonna stage it in? That's,
I mean, we would follow the contract and increase per the contract that percentage in the general fund.
So year one, 2015 is $12.99 a unit. Year 5, 2019 is $14.20 a unit per month. So that's an increase of $1.20 over 5 years per unit per month. So the costs, the costs are going to be fairly stable throughout the life of the contract. And then it'll go up again 30% probably at the end of that cycle, just like you did this cycle.
Yeah, I don't feel very good about offsetting it. I mean,
It was just,
I personally agree, because it's a cost we push on. We have the other end of the budget where we were talking at the budget meeting about capital reserves. That's the stuff that we can't, you know, we need the budget money, or the money in the budget.
Another thing with your alleys, you're saying if you do the alleys, it's $12 more, right? So we're saying?
A month.
No, it's $12 a year.
$12 a year.
it's $12 for e-waste and it's $15 for alleys.
Alleys, okay, the alleys.
$27 increase right now.
Now, I'm thinking if you're doing the alleys, if you eliminate the alleys, you're gonna, if you don't eliminate the alleys, you're gonna have to come up with more money to fix these alleys that these trucks are gonna be driving. Because a lot of these roads cannot handle all this. I mean, that's why your roads valley out, is because of the heavy weight of the trucks. Once you fix them, you're gonna be continuing to fix these things.
Yeah, I mean, right, I agree, but, you know, one other thing to keep in mind, though, let me tell you a point, right? So, during the budget discussions, right, one thing that's been raised by Rob a number of times is, the amount of mileage we have in the borough, right? And the amount of miles we have in the borough, I think what he says, 32 miles? I think he says 32 miles of roads, right? and he uses a number for what 1 mile of road to be fixed is, right? What that maintains, and you should hit every road, I think he said every 10 years. I think the road lasts 8 to 10 years. So when you do that math, our road fund is actually under budgeted by about $300,000, right? We have about a $350,000 road budget. We should have a $650,000 road budget. If we had a $650,000 road budget, every road, whether it's Crafton Boulevard, Steuben Street, or the alleys, right, would all be at the same
But
level
we do
after
not
10
have-
years.
We do not have that budget.
Right, but what I'm saying is though, I would lobby for, we need to head in that direction and treat our alleys as full grade roads, as opposed to head the other direction and say, hey, you know what, if we stop the garbage trucks on our alleys, we're gonna have perfect alleys again. I don't think the complaints are gonna go down. I think the alleys are still gonna fall apart. And I'm a little skeptical as whether or not the equipment we're gonna spend $10,000 for is gonna get us alleys that people are happy with.
Did we do this already in the past? What was the equipment we had, we tried to do a road?
That was different equipment. That was different equipment.
Same
That was
group though.
same crew, same principle. I'll give you that. It was the same principle,
I mean,
right?
The skill set hasn't changed.
The skill set hasn't changed, and one discussion I had with Rob today was, skill set being the same, it's also a significant number of man hours. So he's gonna go back and try to figure out how many man hours he would actually see that has to get applied to this, and what crew he would put against it, because,
Did he double or triple it because the manpower, I mean, the expertise isn't there, so how do you account for the lack of expertise?
well, I mean, put expertise aside for the second, right? Say it's just 200 man hours, 300 man hours right over the summer, where are they gonna come from, right? You know, because it doesn't feel right now like we have people over the summer that don't have anything to do, right? Feels like you're basically just keeping up with
Yeah.
demand, and now we're adding,
What's a skill set too, and our laborers are unskilled per contract, so, I mean.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
right. But if you go back to, if that fixes our alleys, right? So I'm a little skeptical whether our alleys are gonna be fixed, whether we debate dump trucks or no dump trucks, right? You know, waste trucks or no waste trucks. I think as a community, we need to properly fund our roads. We have 32 miles of roads, and they're unfunded. So I worry a little bit about letting this discussion head down the path of, hey, we could solve our alley problem by getting dump trucks off them. Not really. You know, we should treat our alleys, if we're a community of alleys, we should treat our alleys like roads.
But lower on the priority list.
Lower on the priority list, but I mean, we should hit them all, right? I mean, we should get to them.
When the money starts getting there, you're able to say that, you know, Noble Avenue and Emily Street and Linwood Avenue and the main roads are, you know, are drivable. Look at Bar Avenue between Sterrett Street and Willard.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't,
Canyons up there.
they wouldn't hit, it would not hit, right? It would not hit the, well, I guess at current funding levels, we'll never get to them.
Right.
Right? Ever. So, you know, we're gonna have to solve that problem sooner rather than later. But I'm skeptical that, we always couch this whole discussion around alleys or no alleys with the trucks. Like our alleys are gonna be fixed, and they're not gonna be fixed. What's gonna fix our alleys is to properly fund them, not pulling trucks off them.
Well, I mean, I will add the caveat though, it's how you fix it will be affected by what vehicles you have running over it. So the number that you plug into that overall road pavement program for alleys is either gonna be X or it's gonna be X plus Y if you're gonna fix it to a degree that it can continue to handle truck traffic. You've got 3 levels of fixing the alleys. You've got patch and potholes, you've got repaving, and you have structural reconstruction of the alley to support truck traffic, including garbage trucks. So if you put the potholes, if you fix it with pothole and put the trucks on it, it's not gonna last at all. If you do a paving program to include the alleys but still continue to run trucks on it, it's not gonna last as long as council would like to see it last in terms of that investment in those alleys. If you do a pavement program and get the trucks off, that pavement program will last you longer. If you reconstruct the alleys, you could possibly keep the trucks on it and still have it functioning as an alley for the life of the road as it normally would be, because you're essentially building it to a road standard that could accommodate cars, trucks, and what have you.
Yeah.
So So if you want to set the wheels in motion in terms of some sort of long-term strategy to fix alleys, this does have a direct impact on that. If you make the decision to keep the trucks on the alleys, then the discussion about folding the alleys into the overall pavement program should be deferred for at least 5 years. Because you can't fix those alleys and keep the trucks on it unless you rebuild them. So the decision now to keep them on the alleys will impact that discussion. So when Rob and I work on a pavement program or a recommended pavement program for the borough to consider next year, we're not going to talk about alleys. More of a distraction than anything, because you shouldn't talk about it for at least
No.
5 years. And then you could talk about folding the alleys into the overall pavement program.
Well, I think that's a smart thing to do anyways. Get the streets done, and then in 5 years, come back and say, okay, let's get these alleys. This is what, we have this goal. Our goal is in 5 years to start the alleys. We gotta get the main streets paved first.
If you
I would hate to do the alleys now and leave some of the main streets out. I think our mission should be do what's drivable now, and then come back and get the alleys once we get the main streets up to code. So, you know, I understand what he's saying, but I say we keep the alleys in, move on with the plan that 5 years from now, we're gonna be rebuilding alleys.
Yeah,
Which is okay.
Yeah, I mean, that all sounds right. It does presume, though, all the streets, it might be longer, right? I don't know if all the streets will be ready in 5 years,
Yeah.
but we're basically saying, we're gonna take the pain of bad alleys until all the streets are at a moderate level, right? And then upon which, right, we should be looking at how we're gonna reconstruct the alleys. And if we choose to reconstruct the alleys at an alley grade, the trucks have to come on.
Right.
If we choose to reconstruct the alleys at road grade, trucks can stay on, right? But it's a little moot now because we're not touching the alleys, you know, in any kind of,
I don't think we're touching them anyways in every one.
well, Rob is suggesting we buy this equipment,
Yeah.
right? And he wants to touch them, and he asked us as a group, right, to give him a year to see what he can do with these alleys, with this new piece of equipment. My big caveat to that is, where's the hours coming from? Which, you know, so we talked about that today. You know, he suggested that there's some inefficiencies in the crew, and that he thinks that he can find those hours, and, you know, we shall see. I don't
Well,
know.
I think there's nothing wrong with trying some of the bad alleys to try to get them better, but we're not going to tackle that with the trucks on or with the trucks off. So,
Yeah.
How much did the last alley cost us?
$160.
Yeah. I go back to that, there was
There
no
was
way I would.
there was a lot of damage that happened.
Yeah.
No, the crew. Maybe with Rob being different and understanding it differently.
But the people actually doing the work is the same skill
Well,
set.
yeah, they have the skill set, but Rob has the skill set to bring them into more. The crew leader up there at the time was nowhere close to knowing, understanding what he was doing, and made all that equipment and had stuff built to do the alley, and none of it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good discussion, but it's a bit tangential, right? So we're right now trying to figure out, we're trying to compose ourselves for what we're ready to, we're gonna try to vote on next week, next 2 weeks. If we wanna revisit, we're still in the opening of the budget, right? If we wanna have Rob, we're gonna revisit with Rob what his true plan is for those alleys, and does it make sense to buy that equipment? Because that equipment means we need the expertise and we need the staffing levels to do it, right? If we don't have the staffing levels and we don't have the expertise, why are we spending $10,000 on a piece of equipment, right? We may want to look at that. But I think he should come up with a plan and present it to us, and, you know, we'll decide if that makes sense and if we want to allocate that $10,000 for the piece of equipment. But that is a little bit tangential to what we're doing right now with the garbage, because we know that we're not making any major material improvements to the alleys. It's a stopgap solution, right, for the next 5 years.
I'm okay with that. And I'll be honest with you, I disagree about the skill set. I agree but disagree. 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I worked Public Works, we paved alleys. Some of those same guys were in Public Works.
25 years ago.
Yeah, but here's the problem. Those people have conveniently not understood or didn't want to purvey the skill set, which is part of that problem. You know, with the right understanding of management, I think that project, well, would have gone a lot better, but it would have done a little bit better. $160,000 there right now.
Okay, so, how, we wanna draft, we wanna have a motion ready at the next meeting on how,
Well, it's a pretty open question, that is, do you want to start budgeting for this out of the general fund? And I wouldn't just sort of hide it by just having it be a wash and then not collect enough to cover it. And if you're gonna budget amount that's gonna go towards, from the general fund to help subsidize a portion of the garbage contract, I think we should have that line item and have that discussion. And to what degree? And if you'd like me to prepare that, I can bring that to the next meeting and you can discuss it and define what that amount is.